Those opportunities aren't going to just land in your lap. You have to spot them, work for them, chase them. My advice would be to seize those opportunities, ask for the instructions, and don't be afraid to say yes to the opportunities that might seem scary. So embrace the unknown, and you might be surprised where you'll end up.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Student Lawyer podcast series. Whether you're at school, sixth form, university, thinking about a career in law, or exploring law careers, you're in the right place. We are the one-stop shop for student lawyers. If you'd like to join the Student Lawyer as a writer, please email hello@thestudentLawyer.com. This episode is sponsored by the University of Law. The University of Law offers a range of undergraduate and postgraduate courses and master's degrees alongside an award-winning pro bono clinic so you can build up your legal experience while studying. And their experienced career service will enable you to put your best foot forward when launching your legal career. The courses are employment focused and based on real legal practice, so you'll be better prepared for the workplace. Part-time and online study options are available so you can work and study at the same time. Click the link in the description box of the podcast to find out more about the courses on offer. Welcome to the Student Lawyer podcast series. My name's Camilla. I'm a trainee solicitor and I'm going to be your host today. In today's episode, we are joined by Macella Wan, who is Underwriting Manager at Harbour Underwriting. In this episode, we're going to find out more about Macella's career journey, have a deep dive into what being an underwriting manager involves, and find out more about the role of litigation insurers in the legal sector, and much, much more. So make sure you stick around. Without further ado, let's welcome Macella onto the show. Welcome, Macella. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Camilla. Thanks for having me.
So let's get straight into the questions. Please, could you provide an overview of your career history to date?
I took the traditional route into law. I have a law degree, did my LPC, and then I did a trading contract with a small firm in Leeds. I've been in private practice for 13 years and was a commercial litigation lawyer for Kennedy's in Manchester before I moved to London and started working for Harbour Underwriting in the summer of 2019.
And what led you to make the switch from private practice to becoming an underwriting manager at Harbour Underwriting?
The opportunity to work for Harbour Underwriting came at a time when I was looking for a change, although not necessarily a move away from legal practice or litigation. Underwriting gives me the chance to work on litigated cases from a different perspective. Rather than running the cases from beginning to trial, I'll be looking at them from a risk perspective. Having been a litigator before has been hugely helpful in understanding costs, how litigation can evolve, what hurdles a claimant would face, and gives a good idea of what makes a case more likely to be a success. So for me, it really was a positive move.
Yeah, I think it's incredible to learn about all these different careers that you can go into, using your law degree and using the skills and being a lawyer in different business environments. I think it's great. Like, we don't learn about this at university, careers fairs. I don't know whether Harbour goes to careers fairs or anything like that, but I just think it's great to be able to share these different job roles with all of the listeners so that they know.
I think it's important for your listeners to know that having a law degree doesn't mean that it has to be a role as a solicitor or a barrister. There are lots of other opportunities out there in the legal profession which would make use of a law degree or your legal experience.
I think that's so exciting. And what does your role entail? I know you've gone into it a little bit, but if you could provide a bit more detail, that'd be great.
In a nutshell, I look at cases to see whether they are suitable for after the event insurance, to see whether the party wanting insurance has a good case. If it's a case we like, it has merits, and we're prepared to support it, then we would offer insurance to cover typically adverse costs or legal fees and disbursements. If the litigation is then successful as we anticipate, then that's great. But litigation is inherently risky, So in the event they are unsuccessful at trial, then they will have insurance to cover for litigation costs.
And just for the benefit of listeners who might not know what this is, could you explain what after the event insurance actually means?
After the event insurance gives cover for usually litigation costs after a claim has already been instigated. So the event being the litigation, is already happened. But we already know that there is going to be either an arbitration or a trial that's going to happen. And with that, there will become a risk where you have to pay your opponent's costs, or you will have to incur your own legal fees to get to trial. And at the end of the trial, there is the risk that you're not successful in achieving what your claim is or what you're wanting to defend. The insurance will cover for that element of costs, or for the element of the costs that you have purchased the insurance to cover.
I see. Thank you so much for explaining that, because I've heard that term quite a lot, but I wouldn't have been able to explain it. So thank you so much for explaining what that is.
That makes sense.
And what does a typical day look like for you?
Typically, I'd be looking at either new submissions for insurance or managing the cases that we already insure. So for new cases, what we want to see is that there is merits in the case. So we'll be looking at opinions that are prepared by the barristers that are instructed to run that case. We want to see that there is adequate funding to trial, that there is a good litigation strategy. We would also be looking at case budgets, asking questions, attending meetings with brokers or legal team, or attending conferences of counsel. For the cases we already insure, we would want to be kept notified of developments in the case. So we'd want to see the court directions. We'd want to know when trial is going to be listed, whether there are any interim applications that are made, whether there is any change in merits at key stages of the litigation. So after disclosure, we'd want to know whether there has been any positive or negative findings when experts have given their views. That way we can give an appropriate reserve for any upcoming claims on the policy. But not every day is spent at our desk reading cases or going to meetings. I also go to a lot of conferences, I meet a lot of lawyers, and I try to do at least one networking event a week.
That seems like it's really varied and maybe a great career choice for people who do like to be out and about quite a lot, maybe rather than, I know partners network and associates and solicitors do as well. But it sounds like it is quite varied, maybe compared to the role of a solicitor, which is more desk-based.
It depends. It is compared to my time in private practice before, when it was more desk-based and looking after particular cases to trial. I find I am going out more to meet people in my current role than I did when I was in private practice. But then again, say a partner in private practice, or even senior associates who go out a lot to look for business, then the same could be said for their job too.
Absolutely. I'd like to take a moment to speak about the University of Law, which is the university I decided to study my LPC at. The University of Law is the sponsor of this podcast and makes it possible for us to continue bringing these episodes to you. So we really appreciate you supporting us by supporting our sponsors. What really sets the University of Law apart from other universities is its belief in training students for the real world from the moment they accept a place. The University of Law's experienced career specialist service, and award-winning pro bono clinics offer students the chance to get real-life legal experience which can boost employability. They offer a range of undergraduate and postgraduate legal training and master's degrees designed by qualified experts to help students excel at any stage of their career. Their courses are employment-focused, honing key skills in a teaching environment based on real legal practice. Part-time and online study options are also available on many of their courses to help students work and study at the same time. If you'd like to find out more about the courses on offer, please click the link in the description box of the podcast.
So does your role involve a lot of use of numbers and data? Is it more analytical in that sense, in terms of like data and numbers, or not really?
Both yes and no. We insure litigation costs. So if somebody loses at trial and they're responsible for the winning party's costs, we need to have a good estimate of how much it's going to cost to get to trial, so that we know that enough insurance is purchased and enough cover is in place. But those numbers are largely presented to us in like the case budget. But we still have to gauge whether those budgets are realistic and whether it's actually enough to get them to trial. Bearing in mind, there's probably going to be increases in the spend, there will need to be a contingency in place, etc. Based on those figures, a litigant can decide whether the insurance premium is justified. As an example, if a claimant is insolvent or if there is a flight risk, a defendant can say, well, the defendant shouldn't be allowed to make a frivolous claim and incur all these legal costs that they're not intending to pay at the end. So they can ask for a substantial payment into court. But with an insurance policy, they can then use that to satisfy the court at a fraction of what they would have had to pay into court, which would mean that there would be more funding available for the war chest, or it could be channeled towards getting an increase on the funding budget. So yeah, use of numbers and data are important, but it's not the only thing that we focus on.
I see. Thank you so much for explaining that. And what types of cases can Harbour Underwriting help with generally?
We can insure most commercial disputes. We can't insure bodily injury, defamation, and tax, but we can give cover to other forms of disputes, for example, contract disputes, professional negligence, class actions, intellectual property disputes, and the like. We can also offer insurance for appeals, arbitrations, and sometimes cases in other jurisdictions as well. And we can offer pretty big limits. We also look at cases after they have already been issued at court, up to even close to trial, even though we don't tend to like to do that, because the closer you get to trial, the more risky it is. We're always happy to consider it and have offered terms for insurance close to trial before.
Okay, so it sounds like quite a big range of cases, apart from the ones that you mentioned can't be insured. So that's really helpful to know. And in private practice, the career path is more well known, as we kind of alluded to earlier. We know that you become a solicitor or associate, a senior associate, and then partner. But what does career progression look like as an underwriting manager or at Harbour? Is it the same as in private practice, or is it different?
It's very similar. It's no different than moving into any other organization. You just progress into more senior roles in that company or in that firm. But as I said before, I think there's a lot that the legal profession has to offer, and there's a lot of roles that are outside of the usual private practice solicitor model or chambers barrister model. For example, there's been a big surge in class actions, and with that, there's been a need for book building expertise and a need for reputation management. There's been a rise in e-disclosure and online hearings, and there's continuing developments in AI. So it's helpful to keep an open mind, because progression will still happen outside of those traditional routes to senior associate and partnership.
And what do you enjoy most about your work?
The variety. When I was in private practice, I'd be managing a case from beginning to trial. So you're immersed in the details for that one case or a few select cases for a smaller portfolio, because those cases could last a few years. Whereas with underwriting, I get to look at quite a large number of cases, often involving complex and intellectually challenging facts and arguments, and try to understand whether it's the case that falls within our criteria and appetite, which makes the job a lot more interesting. It means I'm always learning new things.
It sounds really interesting, and I love the variation aspect of the role as well. It sounds like a great role and something that our listeners, I'm sure, will be considering in their future. So thank you so much for explaining more about what you do and who you help. Now, Macella, I know that you are incredible at networking. That's how we met. And yeah, I just wondered if you could share your top tips for networking with us, please.
Thank you. I don't really think of it as networking, but more just as for meeting people. Think of it as a non-negotiable part of your own career development, and invest in your relationships. Take advantage of LinkedIn, because that's an amazing resource that's come a long way since I've started my career. It doesn't come easy. You have to put in the effort to look for conferences or seminars that are relevant to you and your practice. But if you commit to, say, going to one a week and aim to make one meaningful connection at every one and keep in contact with them, by the end of the year, you'll have another 50-odd connections that you hadn't had if you hadn't gone. You also meet a lot of people that you work well with and trust in your very long career. Seniors who will mentor you long after you've moved roles, colleagues who will move in the same circles and you'll come across again. So keep in touch with them, because the likelihood is you might work with them again.
That's great advice. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, I think the little and often approach makes it a lot less scary. I remember when I first thought about networking, and like you said, it's all about how you perceive it, and just think of it as meeting people rather than putting pressure on yourself to network, because that can be a little bit scary. But yeah, I like the way you said it's just meeting people, because I think that sounds a lot easier. So thank you for sharing that. And then what is one piece of advice that you would like to have received at the start of your career?
It's quite hard to come up with just one piece of advice for anyone embarking on a career in the legal profession or any profession. Everyone's journey would be unique to them, and a large part of that depends on what opportunities are available to you. But those opportunities aren't going to just land in your lap. You have to spot them, work for them, chase them. My advice would be to seize those opportunities, ask for the instructions, and don't be afraid to say yes to the opportunities that might seem scary. Not everyone's career plan actually goes to plan. So embrace the unknown, and you might be surprised where you'll end up.
I love that. That's so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing, Macella. It's been great to have you on the show. Yeah, you've been great, and it's been really interesting to find out more about your career and your tips for networking as well. So thank you so much for being a guest.
Thanks very much for having me.
And thank you to the listeners as well for tuning in to another episode of the Student Lawyer Podcast. And we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
To hear more of the Student Lawyers Podcast, hit the subscribe button and leave us a star rating and review. If you would like to join the Student Lawyer as a writer, please email hello@thestudенtlawyer.com.